Ladies and gentlemen, right now, in this very moment, your life is being shaped, not by your past, not by your circumstances, not by your bank account, and not by your background, but by the decisions you're making. You see, we've all been sold a lie that change is hard, that transformation takes years, that we're trapped by what's happened to us. But I'm here to tell you something that might shake you up, and I hope it does. Your life can change in an instant, not by chance, but by choice. Not 100 choices, not a lifetime of effort, but 3 simple decisions that you're already making every single day, whether you know it or not. And when you learn to master them, consciously and intentionally, you don't just change direction, you rewrite your destiny. So I want to challenge you to lean in, because what I'm about to share with you today isn't theory, it's not motivational fluff. It's the exact framework the people who create extraordinary lives use, consciously or unconsciously, to rise, to heal, to lead, to love, and to win. If you're tired of waiting for your life to change, if you're done feeling stuck in patterns that don't serve you, then give me your full attention, just for the next few minutes. Because this isn't just a speech. This could be the pivot point in your life. Let's dive in. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you paused and asked yourself, what am I really focusing on right now? Not just at a surface level, but deep down. Most people don't realize it, but your focus is a decision. And that decision is shaping your entire experience of life. Right now, see, in every moment of your life, your brain is asking one of the most important questions you'll ever face. What does this mean? And what do I do with it? And the answer to that question depends entirely on what you choose to focus on, because where focus goes, energy flows. And when you direct that energy unconsciously toward what's missing, what's wrong, or what's out of your control, guess what? You feel overwhelmed, you feel powerless, you start stacking pain on top of pain, and you begin to believe that's just how life is. But it's not. The truth is, life is happening for you, not to you. But you only start to realize that when you take back the wheel and decide to control your focus. That's the first and most powerful decision you'll ever make. What will I choose to focus on right now? Here's what's wild. 2 people can go through the exact same experience, but have a completely different outcome simply because they focused on different things. One person goes through a challenge, focuses on how unfair it is, how hard it is, how no one understands, and they spiral. Another person faces the same storm, but focuses on what they can control, what they can learn, what they can build from it, and they rise. The difference isn't circumstance, it's focus. Let me give you an example. I worked with a woman once who had been through absolute hell, abuse, trauma, bankruptcy, you name it. She sat across from me and said, I just want to feel alive again. You know what I asked her? What have you been focusing on? She broke down. Everything I lost. Everything that went wrong. So I asked her, what else is there? At first she didn't know, but I pushed. I challenged her. And finally, she found something. Her kids. She said, they're the only reason I keep going. I said, then let's make them your focus. Not your pain, not your past, but your purpose, your why. And when she shifted her focus, everything began to change. Not overnight, but consistently. And that consistency is what built momentum. That's what created transformation. Most people walk around reacting to life instead of deciding how they're going to direct their life. That's what this is about. You get to choose. Will you focus on what's missing or on what's already within you? Will you focus on what you can't control or what you can? Will you zero in on your limitations or your resources? Because I'm telling you, if you keep focusing on the problem, the pain, the past, you're going to keep feeling stuck. But if you train your mind to focus on the solution, the possibility, the power, you will feel momentum. Again, it's not magic. It's not luck. It's a decision. And once you make it, life starts responding. You might say, but I've tried that before and it didn't work. No, you dabbled. You made a half decision. I'm talking about committing to a new focus. That means when the doubt creeps in, you shift. When fear shows up, you shift. When your old patterns whisper, this is just who you are, you shift again and again and again. Because repetition is the mother of skill. And if you repeat the right focus, you build the right life. So here's the challenge for you right now. Get honest about what you've been focusing on. Has it been disempowering? Has it been fear-based? Has it been driven by survival instead of creation? If so, own it. Don't judge it. But don't stay there either. Make a new decision. Shift your focus to your strengths, to your blessings, to your future, to your power, because that's the first of the three decisions that shape your life. And once you own that, everything else starts to change. Now let's talk about the second decision that determines the quality of your life, the meaning you give to what happens. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had a moment in life where something happened and it just wrecked you? A moment where you thought, this is it. This is the moment that breaks me. Maybe it was a betrayal. Maybe it was a failure. Maybe it was a moment where everything you worked for slipped through your hands. We've all had them, but here's what I want you to understand. It's not the experience that defines your life. It's the meaning you attach to it. That's the second decision that shapes your destiny. What does this mean? Because listen, life is going to test you. It's going to stretch you. It's going to throw things at you that you didn't ask for and didn't see coming. But in every single one of those moments, you are writing a story in your mind about what it all means. And that story becomes your life. Two people can go through the same loss. One person says, this destroyed me and lives in pain for years. The other says, this woke me up. This gave me purpose. One experienced two completely different lives. Why? Because of meaning. Meaning is the emotional glue that holds your experience together. It's what determines whether something becomes a reason to shut down or the fuel to rise up. And most people never stop to question the meaning they've attached to the events in their life. They just assume that the pain they feel is permanent, when really it's just a pattern. Some of you have been carrying around meanings that were never even yours to begin with. You got hurt and you made it mean, I'm not enough. You failed and you made it mean, I'll never succeed. Someone walked away and you made it mean, I'm unlovable. But those meanings, those beliefs, aren't facts. They're decisions. You decided, consciously or unconsciously, to interpret the event in a certain way. And you can decide differently. See, your brain's job is to protect you. It's always scanning for what's wrong, what hurts, what could go sideways. That's survival. But your soul wants growth. Your soul is here for evolution. And in order to grow, you've got to start assigning meaning that empowers you, not imprisons you. I had a man come up to me once after a seminar. He was successful, had built an empire, but he was empty. And when we got to the core of it, it all traced back to one moment. His father left when he was a kid, and ever since, he made it mean, I have to prove I'm worthy. I have to earn love. So he spent his life building, pushing, striving, never stopping, because the meaning he gave that moment created a prison of achievement without fulfillment. So I asked him, what if your father leaving wasn't about you? What if it was his pain, his story, his incapacity, and not your inadequacy? And for the first time in decades, he broke. That moment didn't change, but the meaning did. And when the meaning changed, everything changed. I'm telling you right now, whatever pain you've been carrying, whatever story you've been repeating, whatever meaning you've assigned to that chapter of your life, you can rewrite it. Right here, right now, you're not stuck with the story, you're the author, and you can choose to give it a new ending. Maybe that betrayal didn't mean you're not lovable, it meant you were meant to rise on your own. Maybe that failure wasn't the end, it was the setup for your breakthrough. Maybe that loss didn't happen to destroy you, it happened to awaken something deeper in you. But you've got to decide. You've got to consciously choose to assign a meaning that gives you power, not pain. Because once you master meaning, you become unshakable. You stop waiting for life to go your way, and you start creating meaning that moves you forward, no matter what comes. So take a moment. Look at something in your past that's still running your life, something you've been interpreting through the lens of pain, fear, or shame, and ask yourself, what else could this mean? Not in some fake positive thinking way, but in a real soul level shift. Because I promise you this, when you change the meaning, you change the emotion, and when you change the emotion, you change your action. And that's how you take your power. Back, let's move to the third and final decision, the one that brings everything together, what you choose to do. So if the first decision is what you choose to focus on, and the second is the meaning you assign to what happens, then here's the third and final decision that shapes your life. What are you going to do about it? Because focus gives you direction, meaning gives you emotion, but action, that's what gives you results. That's what builds your future. Now, I want you to really hear this. Your life doesn't change when you hope. Your life doesn't change when you want. Your life changes the moment you decide and act on it. Action is where transformation is born. Not in your head, but in your hands. In what you do. There are so many people out there who know what they want. They've read the books, gone to the seminars, and down the goals. But they're still stuck. Why? Because they haven't turned that clarity into consistent action. And in the absence of action, nothing changes. You can't think your way into a better life. You've got to move. You've got to break the pattern. You've got to take the damn step, even when it's uncomfortable. You ever notice how one small action can create massive momentum? It's like a domino. The first one falls, and suddenly the next 10 fall right after. That's how life works. The decision to act, especially when you don't feel ready, is what separates those who talk about change from those who live it. You're not going to feel ready, let's just be honest. You're not going to feel like waking up at 5 a.m. and going after your dream. You're not going to feel like forgiving the person who hurt you. You're not going to feel like picking up the phone and making that call that could change everything. But you've got to do it anyway. Because your feelings aren't always your friend. Your decisions are. See, in life, we don't get our goals, we get our standards. What we tolerate, we continue. What we commit to, we create. And the difference between the two is action. Massive, intentional, consistent action. Let me be real with you. Some of you are waiting for the perfect time. You're waiting for the fear to go away. You're waiting until you feel more confident, more certain, more prepared. But that moment isn't coming. You don't become confident before you act. You become confident because you acted. That's how it works. I had a young man come up to me once telling me all the things he wanted. He wanted to start a business, change his body, repair his relationship with his father. He had it all written out, planned to the letter, but he hadn't done anything. I asked him, why not? He said, I'm afraid I'll mess it up. And I told him something that changed the way he looked at everything. You're already messing it up by not doing anything. The pain of regret is far worse than the pain of failure. At least when you fail, you learn, you grow, you build muscle. But when you sit still, you rot, you shrink, you doubt yourself more. So even if you fall forward, even if you stumble, at least you're moving. And you don't need to take some giant leap. That's the myth. You just need to make one real decision and take one real step. Because momentum doesn't require perfection, it requires direction. When you start acting in alignment with a new focus and a new meaning, you begin to build a new identity. Not because you dreamed about it, but because you did something about it. And here's what's beautiful. Your brain starts to believe you. You start to trust yourself again. That's the moment things shift. Not when life changes, but when you do. When you show up differently, when you become a person of action. So let's get honest. What's one decision you've been putting off? What's one action you know in your gut you need to take, but you've been rationalizing, avoiding, explaining away? Whatever that is, do it. Not tomorrow, now. Because the only thing standing between where you are and where you want to be is what you decide to do. Let's bring it all together. Let's talk about how these 3 simple decisions don't just influence your life, they create it. So now we've talked about the 3 decisions: what you focus on, what meaning you assign, and what you choose to do. I want to bring it home by giving you one final truth, something that most people never fully grasp, and it's the reason they stay stuck for years, sometimes their whole life, and it's this. You're never more than 3 decisions away from a completely different life. It's not 10 years from now. It's not some distant version of you with more money, more time, more certainty. It's you right now making 3 new decisions that shift everything. You see, people think transformation is some far-off fantasy. They think the people who are living passionate, fulfilled, powerful lives got lucky, that they had the perfect parents or the perfect education or some special gift. But it's not true. What they had was a moment, just like this, where they stopped letting life happen to them and started shaping life through them. It's not about changing everything overnight. It's about making one different decision in each of those categories we talked about, because when you change your focus, you change your perspective. When you change your meaning, you change your emotions. When you change your actions, you change your outcomes. Stack those together, and that's your life. That's your identity. That's your legacy. But to get there, you have to own something powerful. You're the one who decides always, no matter what's happened. No matter how long you've struggled, no matter who doubted you, no matter how many times you failed, you still hold the pen. You still get to choose what comes next. And maybe no one ever told you that. Maybe life conditioned you to believe you were at the mercy of your circumstances. Maybe you learned to survive instead of thrive. Maybe you got good at numbing instead of acting. But you don't have to stay there. You can reclaim your power in a moment, in a decision. That's what this entire message has been about. Not just motivation, but activation. Waking up the part of you that remembers who you really are, the part that knows deep down you're capable of more, the part that's tired of playing small, tired of waiting, tired of surviving. I've seen people change their entire life with one decision, one moment where they said, enough, no more. A woman who walked away from a toxic relationship after 20 years because she finally decided she was worth more. A man who turned his pain into a purpose and started feeding thousands of families because he remembered what it was like to go hungry as a child. A teenager who stood on a stage, scared out of their mind, and spoke their truth, and lit a fire that would inspire others for years. None of those people were ready. None of them had it all figured out, but they chose. And that choice shifted their trajectory forever. And you, right now, you're standing in that same space, the space between what's been and what could be. The space between the life that happened to you and the life you were meant to create. You don't need permission. You don't need more time. You just need to decide. So here's my challenge to you. And I'm not saying this to hype you up. I'm saying it because I believe in your power. Decide today what you're going to focus on. Choose a focus that fuels you. Choose a focus that reminds you what's possible, not what's painful. Then decide what meaning you're going to give to what's happened in your life. Choose a meaning that empowers you, one that says, this didn't break me, it built me. And then act. Not someday, not next month, now. Do something real, something uncomfortable, something that moves you forward. Because you're not broken, you're not behind. You're just 3 decisions away. And that's all it takes to begin again. With power.